Good morning, my friends, and welcome to Lord's Day Live. If you listen closely, you'll be able to hear the chicks as they chirp right behind you. Yeah? They're right there. I showed you last time, but I'm not going to show you again. But I know you want to see it. They are growing. I got to be honest with you. I had my camera perfectly positioned. You guys, I can't do this every time. See him? Look at him. Oh, dear. Yeah, what do you do? Me and my chicks. I love my chickens. I call them my girls. I've given them all names. Every one of them is named Martha. That way I don't forget who's who. Oh, dear. Lord's Day Live. If you hear the chirping all through the thingy-bajingy, that's just because they're there. Okay, I got to get that pointer out of the way. There, that's much better. Okay, guys, here we are, Lord's Day Live. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate you for joining me. Lord's Day Live. Well, as you know, we are doing doodles. We call this Doodle Bible School. Oh, no. I forgot to erase last time's picture. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to step over here off the camera. Well, I'm going to be on the camera. Put my little squirty squirt on there. Got my little squirty squirt. And I got to get my old rag. This rag's been with me since the beginning. It's like tried and true. There you go. Okay. Now I got my doodleator. It's ready. Okay, got my doodleator, but I don't have a doodle-a-dee. There's it is, right there with me. All right, guys. We're going to do the doodle as our first segment. You know that. It's always the way it goes. But before I do that, I got to introduce it, right? Navigating numbers, as my man Moses as he comes popping on the screen. On our way to the promised land. That's what Moses is saying. On our way to the promised land. We're almost halfway through the book of Numbers. And we've discovered a lot of stuff so far. I keep telling you that the book of Numbers isn't really about numbers. It's about wandering through the wilderness, and yet we haven't done a lot of wandering yet. Hang tight. Buckle up. It'll happen, but probably going to mainly happen during our next semester. So anyhow, today we are going to deal with chapter 18, Navigating Numbers, which leads us into our first segment. And in our first segment, you know what it is. Do the doodle. We've already got ourselves prepitated, and so we're ready to go. Here it is. All right. As we review the doodle, I will pull off my cap for my doodle-a-dee. There we go. Are you with me? All right, there they go, guys. Those are all the clues that we have discovered since Numbers chapter 1, way back in the beginning. Numbers chapter 1, as you can see, it really did have to do with numbers, but most of it since hasn't dealt with numbers much. Okay, we're in chapter 18 here, and as you can see, I'm going to have to add a couple squares next time because we got a few things left to do yet in this semester. We're not done with numbers, but we got a few chapters left to cover. All right, the duties of the priests and the Levites. That's what we're going to deal with in this particular chapter, the duties of the priests and the Levites. So, first of all, let's go ahead and give us our little dude over here. And let's see if I can do this. Let's see. Gabriel does a really good job with the dude. There you go. That's not half bad. I think I actually am proud of myself. And remember, the guy, the high priest, he always wears, and he's got 12 stones, right? There you go. And what do those 12 stones represent on his chest? His chest plate, they represent the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, that's the one in 18. Now, over here, draw you an 8, just the outline of an 8, though, okay? Because we got to fill it in. Excuse me. All right, and remember that what we're dealing with in chapter 18 is the duties of the Levites and the priests and the Levites. So this would be the priests, the high priest specifically, and the Levites would be the tribe that all of the priests come from, right? The tribe of Levi. So in the 8, we'll use the top portion of the 8 to make ourselves a little tent here. Okay, and he's got little flaps happening there. I'm not really good at tents. Did I do that okay? Yeah, it's not great, but it'll work. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, guys. How's that? Is that a little bit better? Still need a little bit of an opening there. All right, there's your tent. All right, and then down in the bottom, go ahead and get you an altar here and just put some fire on it, okay? Because That's the altar of burnt offerings. And that's to remind you then that the priests largely dealt with the stuff of the tent, things that were inside the tent. We've talked about those at length in the past. We'll probably talk about them more in the future. But on the outside of the tent, there was one major thing. There was another, the basin also. But the major thing was the altar of burnt offerings down here. Okay, so that will be the areas of the 8. All right, so the 2 holes of the 8 up and bottom, they will represent the things that the priests and the Levites were to take care of. Now, you're going to find out in today's lesson that basically all the rest of the Levites, except for the priests, all the rest of the Levites, they're kind of guards. They're like the Secret Service. We'll talk about that later on. But anyhow, this is the way you're going to remember the duties of the priests and the Levites. And there they are. I think we did okay. I'm actually kind of pleased with that high priest guy there. He turned out pretty good. Most of the time I got them weighing 300 pounds and they look like they're about to fall over because they're a big marshmallow or something. Okay, there you go, guys. So, okay, so duties of the priests and the Levites is chapter 18. There you go. Now, if I were to ask you 2 questions in preparation for the final test, I would ask you these 2 questions from this segment. They would be, what is the theme of chapter 18? Duties of the priests and the Levites. I don't know that I've explained this very well, but all of the priests came from the tribe of Levi. Okay. Now, not everybody in that big family was a priest, but all of the priests had to come from the tribe of Levi. Okay. And so that's why he has the duties of both the priests and the Levites, because even if you weren't a priest, you still had duties to take care of with regards to the tabernacle and the holy things, that kind of thing. Can you do the doodle? Yes, you can, because we done did, and I think I'm actually kind of pleased with my drawing this time. Most of the time, I'm not at all pleased, but this particular time, I am very pleased. My high priest, he went on a diet, I guess. All right, guys, here we go. Let's be silly. Now, when we tune into the Munsters, we find that they've got us another joke. What do astronauts do when they get cold? Astronauts, you know, those guys that fly around in space and stuff. It's a good question. I guess they tell me it gets really cold out there. What do astronauts do when they get cold? Well, they turn on a space heater. I mean, they're out there in space, so why not use a space heater? It's about the only thing that gets us through the winter right here in Northeast Arkansas. Old Sonny Childs, he's not much of a carpenter, but he does a little carpentry, and I built in the back porch so that my wife would have a bedroom and we could take in her parents and all kinds of stuff like that, which doesn't matter for me to talk about right now. But anyhow, we don't have heat on the back porch, and so we have to use space heaters. But we're not astronauts. No, we're not. All right, moving on. Here we go, segment number 2, make a memory. All right, there's our little bouncy brain. He comes running on there saying, I am working out. Well, good. You keep on working out because you got to put it in the brain and it's got to stay there. All right, I'm having trouble keeping stuff in my brain lately, folks. I lost my keys the other day. I ran around in the rain trying to find them. It was bad. I couldn't find my keys, and then finally I found them. But it was bad because I can't remember stuff. Anyhow, all you have to do is say each line 5 times. Here's your memory verse. And with you, and with you, and with you, and with you, and with you. And that was really easy. Bring your brothers also. And with you, 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 bring your brothers also. We've already got the first 2 lines. The tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. Now, we'll pick this apart just a little bit later as we what is that? When we ponder the passage, that's what it is. But right now, let's just focus on the memory verse, okay? So say each of those lines 5 times, and you'll get it in your little brain, okay? Now, if that doesn't work, you can always, here comes my dancing Moses. If that doesn't work, you can always leave blanks. So you write out the memory verse, then you leave blanks. And every time you pass by the memory verse, you got to fill in the blanks, okay? So you see them there, okay? So just go down through there, and you fill in those blanks, and do that with step number 1, excuse me. I don't know where I got the burpees this morning, but anyhow, do that with step number 1, and by the time you're done, guess what's going to happen? Yeah, buddy. All right. Here we go with questions for segment number 2. I would ask you these questions. Members of what tribe were to minister to Aaron and his sons? It was in the memory verse. Which tribe of Israel was to take care of Aaron and his sons? Which tribe was it? I've already talked about them pretty at length. You wear pants sometimes that are made or in the brand name of this particular tribe. I don't think they invented jeans, but anyhow, it's a kind of jeans. Oh dear. Anyhow, that's the tribe. Can you quote the memory verse? No, but we're working on it. All right, let's bring back the Munsters. Now, no, it doesn't say how much does a roof cost? We had to put a roof on our house here, not the full roof, but we brought it all the way down to the wood. But we had to put shingles and everything on that, and I was so thankful for the guys who did it. They were really good. But anyhow, how much does a roof cost? I could tell you what it cost a couple years ago, maybe if I went to researching, but I ain't going to do her. This is a joke, so let's just get to the punchline. How much does a roof cost? Nothing, because it's on the house. And that's not true, because I remember it cost a lot of money. But that is kind of funny. Roof doesn't cost anything because it's on the house. Oh, dear. All right, segment number 3. Now, in the third segment, we are going to ponder the passage. This is what you were wanting to get to, because I told you earlier on that we were going to talk a little bit about that passage. And so here we go. As we ponder the passage, we look upon the passage to ponder. Here's what you got, folks, right there on the screen. My man Moses, he's even thinking about the clue in his brain. All right. So the Lord said to Aaron, you and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary. In other words, if things go wrong in the sanctuary, the tent, if things go wrong in the holy places, it's your fault. You'll bear responsibility. So you need to be people who understand that it's important for you to do the right thing and to make sure that the right things are always happening in God's presence, because if they don't, it falls under your watch, and you're the one who's going to be responsible for that. And you and your sons, you shall bear iniquity connected to your priesthood. And with you bring your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of testimony. Yes, that's our memory verse. Verse 3. They shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent. Now, as I mentioned earlier, these guys are kind of like the Secret Service. You know how the president has these men who walk around him all the time, they're looking for dangers and all that kind of stuff? Well, that's kind of what the tribe of Levi was supposed to do with Aaron and his sons, because they were really, really important. Aaron and his sons have been sanctified, made holy, so that they can carry out the holy things in the tent of testimony, the tabernacle. There's several names that it's called, but they're very important people. They're some of the most important, outside of Moses, they may be the most important people in the entire group, okay? And so they got these folks who guard them. They don't just guard them, they're also going to guard the tent and all that goes on. They're very, very important, okay? Verse 3. They shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent, but shall not come near the vessels of the sanctuary or altar, lest they die. So these fellows were very important to guard that area and to guard Aaron and his sons, but they were not supposed to do the things that Aaron and his sons do, because that's a very holy assignment, okay? Verse 5. Verse 4. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting and all the service of the tent, and no outsiders shall come near you. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary and over the altar. So now he's talking about Aaron and his sons. Now you guys, inside that ring, you're to take care of, make sure that the tent and the altar that we talked about, well, there it is, right down there, that the altar, everything is taken care of there, okay? And there may never again be wrath on the people of Israel. Verse 6. And behold, I have taken your brothers, the Levites, from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord to do the service of the tent of meeting. So the rest of the tribe was like a gift that was given to Aaron and his sons. Almost like we would give the president of the United States when he is elected. We give him a gift of all these men and women who are going to take care of him and keep him safe, okay? Secret Service men and women, okay? Well, in this particular case, we've got the Levites, And they're going to take care of Aaron and his folks, okay? And then it says, verse 7, and you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar that is within the veil, and that which is in the veil. So again, Aaron and his sons are specifically to take care of the altar, which is just outside the tent, and everything inside the tent. And you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death. So anybody who is not supposed to be there, anybody who's not supposed to touch the holy things, they'll be put to death. So if anybody tried to steal the Ark of the Covenant inside, for instance, or they tried to steal the various things or they tried to harm Aaron and his sons, those guys, death sentence. Because Aaron, his sons, and the tent and the stuff with it, that's very, very important. It's very, very holy. So there's your question. Let's see. Everything underlined, as you know, you've been with me a long time here. Everything that's underlined will become a question. There's the questions right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sneak me a drink of water. And while I'm sneaking a drink of water, I want you to screenshot that so that you'll have those 5 questions. They will be on your final test. I'm telling you right now. I love water. Did you screenshot it? Okay, here we go. Another silly. What do you get when you cross a pig with a T-Rex? Do you give up? Do you give up, says the man. What? No, says the monster, not a man. What do you get when you cross a pig with a T-Rex? I don't know. What do you get? Jurassic pork. Have you seen the movies Jurassic Park? Well, this is Jurassic Pork because you crossed a T-Rex and a pig. I was reading some stuff. Do you hear the chirps from my little girls at the back, the baby chicks I got back there? I was reading recently about chickens. Did you know that the chicken is the closest living relative to the T-Rex? I don't know if that's true or not, but it was in an article that acted like it was true. So my girls back there, they're not going to become T-Rex. I've had chickens for years, and they don't grow up to be that big. Now, I've met some roosters who are pretty ferocious, but not even like T-Rex. All right, moving on. Segment number 4. As we gain ourselves into segment number 4, we ask ourselves, what about this passage is something that makes it stick in our head, and we want to apply it to our own life? You know, we kind of relate to it. And it's down here at the bottom. I found this little phraseology that I thought was good. You shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar, and that is within the veil. Here's my question. Are you in charge of any special area of work within your home? Aaron and his sons were in charge of the tent and the altar, etc. They were in charge of that, okay? And then they had others who were in charge of them, kind of like your parents are in charge of you, but you're in charge of like your bedroom or something like that. Do you have anything that's maybe like your special area? The things that you take, maybe you got chores at your house and you've got to take care of this particular area. Mine was always taking out the trash. I had a very elaborate. Mine was very prestigious, taking out the trash. But anyhow, my question is, and you're going to have to, here, I'll just put it up here. I need you to write me a short paragraph with regards to that subject matter. What is the special area of work within your home that you get to take care of? And by the way, I made fun of my having to take care of the trash. But one of the things, if I had been mature back in the day, if I had learned, as I should have, one of the things, even if you're just taking out the garbage, you should do it to the best of your ability, because what you're doing represents you, and it represents how you feel about what God has given to you. I just came out this morning as I was about to come in here and do this thing, and I noticed that somebody got into my mom and dad's garbage can. They live right next to us, so we take care of them. And the dogs had gotten in there and scattered it everywhere. So guess what I'm going to have to do? I'm 62 years old, and I'm still the trash guy. But I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. All right, there you go, guys. I need a short paragraph. All right, here's another monster moment. What do you call a reluctant potato? This is a potato who just doesn't want to do it. He just doesn't want to do it. What do you call a reluctant potato? You call him a hesitator. He's hesitating because he's a hesitator. I really thought that was pretty good. All right, get over it. All right, here we go. Segment number 5 is the most feared segment of the entire time, according to this monster guy here. Oh dear, that's because we're going to test you. But you don't fear it, do you? Because you know the answers. And one thing I know about you is you're smart. And so let's just move right on into the test time, and we're going to find what the test time has right here. We're into test number 14. That means we've only got next week and the week after that, and we're done with this semester. Can you believe it? But we're only going to be about halfway through the book of Numbers, so don't go nowhere. We're coming back, God willing. All right, there's your questions, guys. Go ahead and screenshot that. That's the entire test right there. So if you're a mama or a daddy watching this, and you're using these as you don't have to wait for us to send you the e-newsletter or nothing. Just go ahead and right there they are. Just go ahead and screenshot and you got the test questions right there. And if you're a youngin' or an old one and you're taking the test, there you go. I've given, and matter of fact, if you notice, I've even got the place where you can look up the answers. I mean, come on. Go ahead. High five me. I know. Fist bump me. I know. Thumbs up me. I know. You're silly. All right, guys, there you go. I really like you a lot. And I thank you for joining me every Sunday morning as we do Lord's Day Live, and especially the doodle part. You know what I'm saying? Doodle Bible School. That's what we're all about. Sonny Childs saying to you, be there. Matthew 16:26. Well, there you go, folks. The little guy says as he peeks. As he peeks around the corner, he says, well, that was fun. And I agree. That was fun. I enjoy doing that every Sunday morning. Here's my physical address. Scan that QR code if you desire. Here's actually, you can go to this website here if you want to. You can find out more information about how you can support our ministry. I would really appreciate it. We got a lot of good stuff happening, and your support will mean a lot to me. All right, guys. This is the point in our time together that this semester I don't know if I'm going to do this again next semester. It was kind of stressful getting all of this together, but we're going to continue through the end of this particular semester with this idea of holy homesteading. I'm going to hit a button. You're going to watch a video. Here we go. Are you ready? Ho, ho, ho. Holy homesteading. I can't think of anything that's maybe more important to the salvation of our culture than this topic, holy homesteading. We have got to establish a safe place for our family. We have got to get back to recognizing that God at the center of all that he has done. Go all the way back to Genesis chapter 2, and you find that it's always been centered around home. It's been centered around the family. That's why I'm so big on homemaker, home school, home church, homesteading. As we are approaching the conclusion of this 16-week series on this subject matter, I want to take you now to bedtime. We started that last time, but I want to take you to some of the most important parts of the day with regards to resolution, bringing it to conclusion, making sure that God is centered upon. Deuteronomy chapter 6, again, the Shema. We've looked at from breakfast throughout the day, supper time, and now we're at the conclusion of the day. And one of the things he says is, don't forget me when you lie down. When you lay down, make sure that I am still at the center of your conversation, at the center of your dreams, all of those kind of things. In Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6, it says this, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. As we approach the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff on our head. Things are swirling. Things have not been resolved, perhaps. Plans that are being made for tomorrow because we didn't get them done today. All of these kind of things. But in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 6, he says, don't be anxious. It's okay to plan. It's okay to look forward to tomorrow and make plans, as we talked about last time, but don't be anxious. Don't be somebody who allows yourself to be immobilized by the desires for tomorrow or the things that aren't done, that kind of thing. But then he makes three, but really two primary pieces, gives us two primary pieces of advice with regards to how to keep from doing that. And he says we need to pray and we need to supplicate, prayer and supplication. Then he's going to say do that with thanksgiving.
But I want to define those two words just really quickly for you, prayer and supplication. As you look at them in the original language, the word prayer is a rather generic term. It's generally communicating with God. It can encompass supplication and it can encompass thanksgiving. It can encompass a lot of things, but it's primarily just a communication with God. But when he says prayer and supplication, the second part, when he talks about supplication, he's actually talking about making requests. He's talking about laying those heavy things that are on your heart, laying them on the heart of God. But he mentions two things here, prayer and supplication. And so I would like to suggest to you that when you conclude your day, take time to discuss with your family the difference between prayer and supplication and make sure that both things are accomplished. Let me give you three hints as to things that suggestions as to things I think you could do in order to make this happen in the life of your family. Number one, you need to talk about things that we can talk to God about without making requests. God wants to be in communication with us, not just to hear our laundry list of things that we want Him to do for us. He'd like to hear about our day. He'd like for us to be in communication, open communication with Him. And so you need to talk to your family about a list of things that you can just talk to God about without making a request. Number two, make requests. It's not just prayer, but it's also supplication. Uh, you need to ask and discuss with your family because I found this to be a really disheartening problem. There's a lot of folks in our world today who actually believe it's wrong to request things for themselves in prayer. Have encountered a lot of folks, especially individuals who are emotionally unwell, who've come to this conclusion somehow that it's wrong to talk to God about the personal things in their life that they're needing from God. That's just simply not of God. He actually says in this passage twice. Number one, he says it by the word supplication, and later on he says, make your requests known to God. It is okay to request things of God, and it's certainly okay to take your personal things before Him. You need to discuss that, number two, with your family. And then number three, as you conclude the day, have somebody, this is going to be a challenge, but have somebody who will offer a prayer that doesn't include any requests. It's tough. The prayer has to say nothing except thank you, God, or just open communication, but you can't make any requests. Now, I'm not suggesting that every prayer should be that way, but I am suggesting that you start having those occasionally because sometimes the only time we talk to God is when we want something from Him. You know what I'm saying? So, holy homesteading. Teach your family the difference between prayer and supplication. Make sure that they do both of them. And I think that you'll be on your way to establishing a healthy, holy homestead. This is Sonny Chow saying, be there. Matthew 16:26.
Well, there you go, folks. I had to cut that off a little bit quick because I want to make sure that we get our prayer time in. But there's your holy homesteading hint for the week. All right, prayer time. I've got a very good friend named Harley who has made amazing progress with regards to some substance abuse issues and things that are happening in her life. And I'm just so crazy over the top proud of her. I hope that she should be able to see this and see that I am publicly praising her. Hang in there, Harley. I know that there's a lot of friends that I have, and perhaps you have as well, who are struggling with substance abuse in our world today. When the hippies years ago introduced substance abuse into our realm, substance abuse beyond alcohol and that kind of thing, but when they started, experimenting with drugs and things, it really brought down the hammer as far as how it impacted our culture. And we got a lot of folks today who are generationally involved in that pursuit of an escape, and it's because of a godlessness in our culture that we can't find the answers. And so instead of seeking them from God, we seek them from a bottle or shoving something up our arm or snorting it up in it was all those kind of things. But I'll tell you what, there are some folks who are making some amazing progress towards recovery, and I'm so proud of them. Harley is one of them. Way to go, Harley. I'm praying for you. My mom, she's got a lot of issues with regards to fibromyalgia and those kind of things, but she's also losing a lot of weight because of her struggles with regards to pain and things of that nature. And most of mom's life, she's been in pain. And I just ask that you would ask God to bless mom, relieve the pain, help her to be able to gain weight if that's within her will, and to just give her peace in that particular situation. Passover. Yesterday was Passover, and just had just while you were watching a little video, the homesteading video, I was talking to a guy online who was challenging me as to whether or not it's appropriate for Christians to honor the Passover. Certainly, we're not commanded to do that, but Jesus used the Passover to introduce communion. I'm not sure why it's a bad idea for us to do that, which is exactly what my family will be doing this evening about 5 o'clock. My oldest son Bryson will be leading us in a discovery of information about the Passover, and it'll lead us into communion. I'm really excited about the opportunity. We've been doing this for years, and I'm thankful for Bryson being spiritually mature enough to be able to lead us throughout that. Air flight tragedies, it just seemed like I got a lot of stuff. Helicopter this past week, as you know, crashed in the Hudson Bay, and several were killed, including children, and let's pray for those families that were involved. And whatever's going on, I think the Biden administration really left us a broken nation, and the Trump administration is really having to work overtime in order to offset some of the ridiculousnesses that were brought our way with regards to the woke policies of Biden and his cronies. Tariff strategy that our president is putting forth, I don't know. He's smarter than I am. And there have already been many countries who've kind of caved and come our direction, and I'm hoping that will continue. It's just really unfair if you look at the actual numbers. I realize that you and I are going to probably hurt just a little bit until we can get this thing worked out. But I think that what President Trump is actually doing is he's trying to make the playing field fair again. And so if you're going to put tariffs on our items for 25%, I'm going to put the same on your items. I think that's only fair. And I think anybody who is not a Trump hater, but really looking at it with a rational approach will appreciate that as well. Weekend seminar that you see there. I am putting this weekend seminar together. It's actually together, ready to go. If you are interested in doing something like beyond words, we deal a lot with how do you communicate with somebody you can't even speak their own language, that kind of thing. If you hear chirping in the background, those are my little chicks that they're getting big back there, and I don't know, they're extra excitable today. So anyhow, I got 7 of them, and I'm excited to watch them grow and to see what God does with them. It's fun to see God work, isn't it? Please be praying for all these things. If you've got anything that's on your heart, I'm happy for you to go ahead and acknowledge that, and I'll try to make sure that gets out there before the world as well. All right, time to move on. Let's see, what do I do next? I think I hit this button. Oh, home church worship guide. I forgot that one. Here you go, guys. We're already overtime, but here you go. You need to have that. Screenshot that. That's that's Numbers chapter 18, and a really important chapter. You can do what we've been encouraging you to do. Establish your own home church. Even if you go off to the institutional church building every Sunday morning, you can still have home church. And here's some important information that you can use in order to have your own intimate home church worship services. Use that, will you please? All right, you got it? Moving on. Lord's Day Live sermon segment. Thank you for being with me. I am so very grateful. We've got an interesting chapter to deal with today in the book of Numbers. We're approaching the halfway mark. Sorry. And as we are looking at Numbers chapter 18, you might say to yourself, Sonny, you keep saying that we're going to do a lot of wilderness wandering, and we probably aren't going to get to a great deal of that. They are in the process of wandering right now, but we're not going to get to a great deal of that this semester. But as I've said in the openings of several of these lessons, we're going to have to deal with this in 2 segments. And so in the second half, hopefully we'll get to more of the wanderings. Right now, we needed to take them up to the door of the promised land, show you their lack of faith. Now God has sent them off. They're going to die in the wilderness, except for those 2 individuals, Caleb and Joshua, excuse me, not Jacob, Caleb and Joshua. And they're going to die off in the wilderness. Their children will actually go into the promised land. All of that is yet to transpire in the remaining part of the book of Numbers. But what we're going to see in Numbers chapter 18 is more kind of a pause in the discussion of wanderings, and we're going to deal with the idea of some of the assignments that were given out, specifically to the priests and to the Levites. Let's see. Yeah, I was about to get up and go over there thinking I had to hit something over there, but I don't. Here are the questions for those of you who are part of the School of Biblical Studies. You'll have these questions on your final test. If you're not part and you're just studying along, these also make really good guides for you as you kind of take notes with regards to what's going on in chapter 18. Here we go. All right, chapter 18. I forgot to change my title up here at the top, so please forgive me for that. But we're going to look today at some of the things that were assigned to the priests and the Levites. So you can disregard the title. I probably could put part 2 here, because really what's happening in chapter 18 is kind of we're addressing what has just taken place earlier. You might recall we got Korah and all his rebellion, okay, and the earth opens up, swallows them, and then we've got the fire that takes the 250 out, and then we got a pestilence or a plague, that comes along and kills a whole bunch of other folks. And in addressing that, finally, God is hoping to put this to rest. It doesn't, because they're such stubborn, hard-headed whiners. But what he says is, okay, have everybody bring a staff. This is last chapter, chapter 17. Everybody bring a staff, put it in the tent of fellowship, tent of meeting, tabernacle, and we'll see which one God chooses. When they bring them all out the next day, Aaron's rod has budded. And so we know that Aaron is the one who's been chosen. Well, chapter 18 is kind of an extension of chapter 17 in that God is continuing to put forth the reasoning that Aaron and his sons are important and how important they are to God, hoping to squelch any future challenges that are made to Aaron and his authority with regards to God. Okay? Now, again, these are hard-hearted people, and they're going to continue to rebel. But this is God's training opportunity. He is doing everything possible to put the information before these people. Okay? Let's just read through this real quickly, and then I'll draw 3 points with regards to our lesson, having to do with this idea of the responsibilities and things of that nature that come to men, Aaron and his sons, and the entire tribe of Levi, for that matter. So the Lord said to Aaron, you and your sons and your father's house, and you shall bear iniquity connected with the sanctuary, and you and your sons, and you shall bear iniquity connected with your priesthood. And with you bring your brothers also, the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may join you and minister to you while you and your sons with you are before the tent of the testimony. They shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent, but shall not come near to the vessels of the sanctuary or to the altar, lest they and you die. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. And you shall keep guard over the sanctuary, over the altar, that there may never again be wrath on the people of Israel. That's a reference again to what has just taken place, where God has kind of whooped up on these people. He's saying, all right, let's get this thing straightened out. Aaron, you need to take charge and make sure you're responsible, because the wrath that I've had to show on these people, I'm tired of doing that, and hopefully we'll not have to do that again. Verse 6. And behold, I have taken your brothers the Levites from among the people of Israel. They are a gift to you, given to the Lord, to do the service of the tent of meeting. And you and your sons with you shall guard your priesthood for all that concerns the altar and that is within the veil. You shall serve, and you shall serve. I give your priesthood as a gift, and any outsider who comes near shall be put to death. So looking at this idea of service to God, and making some applications for you and I with regards to the importance of the service of God, I want to draw, again, several things that I think are very important for us to recognize. Number 1, accountability. Number 2, guardianship. Number 3, sanctification. First of all, I want you to notice this idea of being accountable. The application for you and I is huge. Go back and notice, he says, you and your sons and your father's house, you shall bear the iniquity connected with the sanctuary, etc. It seems like a negative way to start this off. Aaron, you're my man. Aaron, I have validated you in the previous chapter by letting your staff bud and produce almonds. You're my man. So, guess what? You are the one who's going to bear iniquity if anything goes wrong. I think even though that is a strong admonition, and God probably did intend for it to have some of that bluntness, I think we also need to understand that basically what God is doing here is he's just presenting the accountability factor. Everyone is accountable for something. In this particular case, you've got Aaron and his sons who are accountable for the most important things. The holy work that takes place within the tent of testimony, the tabernacle, they are going to be accountable for that. Big application for you and I. You might note that Scripture teaches us, Peter specifically speaks about all of us as Christians being a priesthood, that we are all priests now. We have one high priest, that is Jesus, and we serve Jesus as his priests, meaning that we all, it's not just Aaron and his sons, but we all are able to come before God, and we're able to offer certain holy things to God. But in the process, we need to be understanding of our accountability. I really fear for some, especially elders in the church today, who seem to act as if they don't have any level of accountability to anybody. They seem to be elected for a lifetime. They seem to be individuals who, when challenged, they push people, especially preachers, they push them out of the fellowship, push them on to another. They tend to govern the employees of the church. They tend to, at times, look more like a board of directors ruling from behind closed doors than grandfathers who are actually concerned about the spiritual makeup of the children of the church, the sheep of the church. I'm concerned that we don't have the level of accountability within the church today that we need to. I was in a debate just yesterday with an individual. It got rather heated, as a matter of fact, but this individual was making the point, which is very typical in our fellowship today, that we really ought to be careful with confrontation. We need to be careful about challenging one another. And he was going on, making the typical rambles with regards to how that we just need to be benign. We need to be individuals. We're kind, we're courteous, and we just don't say anything that's harsh. We just don't say anything that's blunt. And I put before him a litany of passages of Scripture that we don't often talk about with regards to Jesus. And the fact that, Jesus is somebody who was rather blunt. Jesus is somebody who just put it out there, and he even was an individual who was willing to put it in print. The first 3 chapters of the book of Revelation are often touted as being the most understandable chapters in the entire mystic book. 2 of those 3 chapters are devoted to the 7 churches of Asia. And of the 7 churches of Asia, 5 of them received blunt warnings from the Lord. Jesus didn't just say it face to face. He presented it in print in the most public, most read book in all of history, the Bible. My point for you is, if we're going to be Christ-like, we need to recognize that the church needs more accountability, and that means that we got to stop tiptoeing around sin, especially when the sin is being committed by our elders, our shepherds. They need to be called out. Young man Timothy is told by Paul that if an elder continues in sin, they need to be rebuked publicly so that the rest of the folks will fear. We need to be willing to go there. There was a time in the church when we spoke with authority because we had the Word of God being presented within our statements. That doesn't happen very often anymore. You know why? Because largely we don't have the Word of God being presented in our statements. Or if we do, we go through the Scriptures cherry picking only those niceties, and we seem to circumvent all those things where Jesus was actually blunt with regards to those who. There needs to be accountability within our church. There needs to be members who rise up and recognize that when elders are lousy stewards of God's money, by investing in a building that largely sits empty for the majority of the week, echoes silence for the majority of the hours every week, rarely used in comparison, and yet they trap money in there, and then they get so nostalgic about it that they are unwilling to let it go. Those elders need to be called on the carpet. Those elders need to be exposed. Those elders need to have the church rise up and someone say to those elders, repent or be removed from office because you're not shepherding us as you should be. That's just one example. And there are many of lousy leaders within the church today. We wonder why the American church is going backwards in attendance, losing 70+% of its young people upon graduation from high school, going off into the world, many of whom never come back. We wonder it's because we got lousy leadership. There needs to be accountability. Number 2, there has to be a guardianship. Notice also, verse 3, they shall keep guard over you and over the whole tent. Now this is specific to the rest of the tribe of Levi. So you've got Aaron, high priest, his sons, they are the priests, And then you got the rest of the tribe of Levi who also have an assignment. We've seen previous to this that some of them are going to be assigned to actually carry the parts of the tent from point A to point B as they wander. But another thing, and maybe most importantly that you're going to see with regards to this chapter, is that they are kind of like the secret police. You know how the President of the United States, or wherever you're watching in whatever country you happen to live, perhaps the dignitaries of your nation, they have a group of individuals who are constantly around them. They're the bodyguards, and they're constantly looking. They're watching to see where the dangers are, that kind of thing. Our president, during his campaign, was actually shot in the ear, you might recall. And you might remember the secret police as they jumped on top of him. You know, Biden and his lousy cronies didn't give him nearly enough protection that day, and they need to be held responsible for that. But the point is that the few that were actually assigned to who became our president today, President Trump, the few that were there, they did their job. Well, Levi, the rest of the tribe of Levi was kind of like that. We don't often think of them this way, but these were the warrior of warriors. A real man's man kind of a thing. That was the tribe of Levi. These were the guys, the epicenter of activity was the tent of testimony, the tabernacle. And it was at the center of the camp. And they were to protect that above all things else. At all costs, you protect Aaron, his sons, and the stuff in the middle. Because these are the things of God. Guardianship. I wonder today, as we look at the things of God, if we guard them as we should. Back in the day, there was the tent. Yet today we're told, just as in the first point, we're told that now we are the priests. Let me go on to say that we are the tabernacle. We're the temple of the Holy Spirit. That's us. Do you guard that as you should? Maybe more specifically, let me give you one example, as I did in the first one with regards to lousy leadership and trapping money within buildings that sit empty the majority of the time. Let me give you an illustration here. One of the most guarded areas of our life should be our children. Those who are young and impressionable, etc. And yet for most Christians in America today, instead of really being guardians of those tender hearts, they send them off into the world for the majority of their waking hours each school day and allow the world to shape their value system. We're not guardians at all when we do that. Certainly not guardians as God would design us to be. Number 3, sanctification. Down at the bottom, verse 4 and down at the bottom. They shall join you and keep guard over the tent of meeting for all the service of the tent, and no outsider shall come near you. That's the point I want you to see. No outsider shall come near you. Now go to the bottom there, and was that verse 7? And any outsider who comes near shall be put to death. It was a strict penalty for anybody who was not assigned to be there. And they cross that line. They come in contact with one of the holy articles or whatever. He said those individuals are to be put to death because they are sanctified. The word sanctified means to be set apart. It's holy. It's special. It's very much akin, by the way, to the word for church, ecclesia, the called out, set apart, sanctified. How sanctified are we really as the church today? You know, I look at us sometimes and I wonder about how different we are from the world. Just as the world has separate little age-appropriate classes that they send our kids off to in the public school system, we've adopted that in the church, haven't we? You know, our little educational wings. And our kids get up halfway through services and they go off to their, we look just like the world. We've got employees, we've got office buildings, we've got a spectator assembly rooms, we look a lot like the world, don't we? Sanctification, I fear that sanctification is something that the church is rapidly losing as far as being set apart. I'm not sure that the word church really applies to many of us anymore because we're not called out. We're functioning pretty well within. And that's not what the church was called to be. Accountability, guardianship, and sanctification. You see this from the old scenario of the Old Testament. But I want you to make application in the new scenario of the New Testament. Back in the day, as God is training these folks were in the infancy of their spiritual development. As you look at humanity as a timeline, I've often thought of this period as being the adolescent years of our human development. And because we were young and had forgotten so much about God back in the days when we were in Egypt, God had to retrain us. And I mean, you read through the book of Leviticus, and he's just specific about this, that, this, and it's kind of like Judah back in the day when he was 3 years old, and I was teaching him to brush his teeth, my grandson. And I'd have to literally take his hand inside of mine and say, he's 8 years old now. We go in there and he brushes his teeth all by himself because he's continuing to grow. Well, that's the way it was back then. They had to have God literally give them all. But as we move into the New Testament, I find this more kind of our young adult years. As we move into the New Testament, we find that God is saying to us, you need to be more mature than that. And so if back in the day, it required this level of accountability, guardianship, and sanctification, what must he require of us today? One illustration and I'll be done. It's kind of like in giving. In the Old Testament, God gave us specifics. This is what you give. If you got this, you give that much. Largely, it ended up being a tithe or a tenth. But you know, all the opportunities that God had in the New Testament, he never once tells us to tithe. Now, it's not a bad thing. It's not something we can't do. But he says, instead, we should give as we have been prospered. That's hard because I've been prospered a lot. Yeah, that's what God's saying. In other words, I'm not going to give you all the definite little specifics. I'm going to say give according to your heart. Now, if that's true of giving, how much more is it true of this stuff? Accountability, guardianship, sanctification. It's time for the church to mature, and yet we're not doing that largely. As I see it, especially in America today, we're going backwards in our maturity. And it's largely because we want to be so much like the world. Or we want to be so much like those popular denominations down the road. We need to be accountable. We need to be guardians. And we need to be sanctified. Here are the questions that I tried to cover in that lesson. I think we covered most of them. Hope we did. Appreciate you for being with me. I really do. I love you. Sonny Chow saying, be there. Matthew 16:26. If you stayed with me for the postscript, I want to ask you to please continue to pray for our ministry, and if you will, support us. Add us to your missions giving. We really need it. It's the Lord's Day, and as this picture is intended to depict, it's important for moms and dads to make sure that they are a shelter over their children so they can find the Lord, especially on today, or on the schedule today, the Lord's Day. So keep it simple, keep it innocent, and keep it meaningful. Be there. Matthew 16:26.